In our first reading, we heard St. Luke telling us a grim story of persecution, but I should say that he is narrating it in a very amusing way. He tells us that the jailer had locked up his prisoners securely, or so he thought. But it took only some praying and singing of pious songs for the chains to fall off from the prisoners and for the doors to fly open. Now, of course, you have to ask, how come the jailer got so desperate he almost killed himself when he saw the prison doors wide open? Well, yes, you're right. He thought the prisoners had escaped. And why would this get him into trouble? Well, because he was sleeping on the job. The poor jail guard must have fallen asleep while listening to Paul and Silas praying and singing. If they had managed to escape, the jail guard could be charged, not just of gross negligence, but of acting in collusion with the prisoners. He could even be submitted for questioning or submitted to torture and sentenced to public execution. So, the poor guy decided it was best to just kill himself with his own sword. Well, good thing St. Paul had managed to stop him. We're here. To his great surprise, his prisoners were all there. Even if the doors were open, no one had escaped. Meaning, they thought of his welfare. They gave up the possibility of running away because they did not want him to get into trouble. You know, when people whom you have treated with cruelty reciprocate you with kindness, I suppose it changes the whole equation. In the story of St. Luke, this would lead to the jailer's conversion. And from here on, he would treat them with a lot of thoughtfulness. He would take good care of them, wash their wounds, and even offer them meals. Eventually, he would also ask to be baptized by them. My dear friends, as Bishop of Caloocan, I am praying hard for the same kind of conversion for the jailers of Mang Dodong. I know that the story of Mang Dodong has gone viral, so you may have heard about it in the news lately. In fact, when our parish of San Ildefonso in Navotas started sending ready-to-eat lunch to the more than 500 people presently detained there at the Navotas Sports Complex for basically the same reasons, you see, it's not just about Mang Dodong. I instructed the parishioners to feed the jail guards also. You see, the jailers over there tend to be overzealous with their job. No mercy, even for first-time offenders. I think they abide strictly by the now very famous Latin saying, dura lex sed lex. In English, the law is hard, but such is the law. Except that the law tends to be harder on the poor rather than on those with means and influence. And whatever happened to the other saying that goes, those who have less in life should have more in law. And that is why I asked our parish volunteers to give food and drink, not just to the detainees, but to the jail guards as well. I said, be extra kind to the jail guards. The hard law cannot be softened, but the human heart can. Now, of course, those who have not really heard of Mang Dodong might want to know what happened to him. Well, let me tell the story. Mang Dodong is a fish retailer. He was arrested on May 7 in Navotas. He had a quarantine pass for Caloocan only, but he did not know that his pass would not be honored in Navotas City. He was going to buy fish at the Navotas fish market so that he could sell it for retail at the Talipapa near his home barangay in Caloocan. Well, maybe Mang Dodong thought he could be counted as a frontliner because he was involved in selling fish for food, which is considered as an essential item. How could food items be made available in the markets of the poor without retailers? Fish retailing was Dodong's only way of providing for his little family, namely his wife Patring and their adoptive daughter. Since he had done it before and never got apprehended for it, he thought it was all right. This time, they arrested him and detained him at the Navotas Sports Complex, where more than 500 people are still presently detained. Forget about social distancing or physical distancing. And please, it is not true that they were all just hard-headed. Most of them violated quarantine because they wanted to bring home some food for their families. Since neither he nor his wife were users of cell phones, he could not even inform his family that he had been arrested. He pleaded with the police to please at least inform his family, but they didn't do it. In the meantime, his wife waited and waited for him and started to have sleepless nights almost a whole week. You know, here in our diocese, we know what happens when people are abducted by masked men and go missing. It means you can expect their dead bodies to turn up a day or two later. And by the way, wearing masks a few months ago was for killing only. Whoever thought that later on all of us would be required to wear masks? And it is for saving lives. You see, Patring was ready for the worst. Even when she sought help from her former employer and from the diocese, until finally a journalist succeeded in locating Mang Dodong, that he had been detained. You know, it is now already the 12th day since Mang Dodong was arrested. I found it really amazing how many kind-hearted people volunteered to help him. People went out of their way to even donate the bail money, the money that he needed for bail. But you see, the whole process is not only financially difficult for the poor, it is also legally tedious, and the arraignment could only be done online. Well, my good news is, it was scheduled this afternoon, and I hope, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, that he was able to post bail. The money was available. I still have no news up to now, and I'm praying very hard, and would you please pray that Mang Dodong be released. But like I told you, they're about $500. My brothers and sisters, jailers, I know, are not expected to be kind. Their bosses expect them to be tough, hard, and unrelenting in the fulfillment of their duties. And they say, this is necessary for maintaining order in society. To some extent, I would agree. But it is also how you create a whole system of cruelty. Now I understand why Jesus promised to continue his work of redemption by sending the Holy Spirit. He wanted to change not systems, but persons. In the gospel, he says, the Spirit will vindicate the paths of righteousness and justice. This is another translation. And the path of righteousness and justice for him is no other than the way of Jesus. You see, only the way of Jesus can thwart the cruel and inhuman way of Satan that often hides beneath a cloak of legality and order in society.